6 foods you should avoid at all costs because of Alzheimer's. Few diseases in the world are scarier than Alzheimer's. It sneaks up silently, progresses terribly fast, and in the blink of an eye, it can destroy the lives of its victims. It's no wonder that everyone, literally everyone, wants to avoid Alzheimer's at all costs. Unfortunately, there's no foolproof way to avoid Alzheimer's, but there are ways to minimize your risk of developing this condition. And that's exactly what this video is for. To reveal the foods that help reduce the risk of getting Alzheimer's. Number 6. Saturated and trans fats. Saturated and trans fats are one of the biggest enemies when it comes to brain health. Found in foods like red meat, butter, fast food, and industrial baked goods, these fats not only raise bad cholesterol, the infamous LDL, but also promote inflammation in the body, a key factor that can contribute to the development of neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. This happens because these fats encourage oxidative stress, a process that damages brain cells over time. Have you ever stopped to think about how much we consume these foods daily? It's common for many people to add butter to their bread in the morning or enjoy a burger on the weekend, but these habits might be sabotaging your brain health. The inflammation caused by these fats can, over time, impair cognitive function, increasing the risk of memory problems and even dementia. One of the biggest concerns is how these fats impact cholesterol. When LDL levels rise in the blood, it can build up in the walls of your arteries, reducing blood flow to the brain. With less oxygen and nutrients reaching the brain, its health is compromised, raising the risk of Alzheimer's. And the worst part is that we often don't realize how much of these fats we're consuming daily. In addition to their effect on the arteries, studies show that frequent consumption of saturated and trans fats is directly linked to the production of toxic proteins in the brain called amyloid plaques. These plaques are one of the main markers of Alzheimer's, blocking neural connections and disrupting communication between brain cells. So, how do you avoid this? The first step is simple: reduce your intake of foods high in these fats. Switching butter for olive oil, opting for lean meats, and avoiding fast food can make a big difference. Your brain health depends on these small changes. Number 5. Refined sugars. Refined sugars are another big villain when it comes to brain health and Alzheimer's. Found in sweets, sodas, and many processed foods, these sugars are quickly absorbed by the body, causing blood sugar spikes. This seemingly harmless process has a profound impact on the brain. High glucose levels contribute to inflammation and the formation of amyloid plaques, the same ones linked to Alzheimer's development. You might be wondering, how can something as common as sugar be so dangerous? The truth is, refined sugar is in almost all ultra-processed foods. From boxed juice to that quick afternoon snack, it's everywhere, and in excess, it can lead to serious memory and cognitive problems. Frequent consumption of refined sugars can overload the brain, making it more vulnerable to damage over the years. Additionally, excess sugar consumption is linked to insulin resistance in the brain. This phenomenon reduces the brain cells' ability to process glucose, their primary source of energy. With less energy available, brain cells lose efficiency, which can impair memory and other cognitive functions. This insulin resistance is one of the most worrying factors related to Alzheimer's development. The connection between sugar and Alzheimer's is so strong that some experts even call Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes. This is because the disease is directly related to how the body and brain process sugar. With each blood sugar spike, the brain suffers from inflammation and cellular damage that accumulate over time. This can result in cognitive deficits, like memory and learning issues. So the key to protecting your brain is drastically reducing your intake of refined sugars. This means avoiding sweets, sugary drinks, and ultra-processed foods. Opt for natural, whole foods like fresh fruits, which have natural sugars and are paired with fiber that helps regulate blood sugar levels. Number 4. Whole dairy products. When we think of healthy foods, dairy products often come to mind. However, full-fat dairy, like whole milk, cheese, and high-fat yogurts, are rich in saturated fats, the same fats that promote inflammation and oxidative stress in the body and brain. While calcium and other nutrients in dairy are important for bone health, high consumption of full-fat dairy may increase the risk of diseases like Alzheimer's. Excessive consumption of whole dairy is directly linked to increased levels of LDL cholesterol. As we saw earlier, high cholesterol can impair blood flow to the brain, affecting its ability to function properly. Over time, this effect can cause serious cognitive damage, compromising memory and learning abilities. Moreover, the saturated fats in these foods worsen the inflammatory process. Many people don't realize that consuming whole dairy is related to chronic inflammation. When left unchecked, this inflammation can directly impact brain health. Research shows that ongoing brain inflammation promotes the development of amyloid plaques, structures that block connections between neurons. The result is a significant decline in cognitive abilities over time. Switching whole dairy products for low-fat or fat-free versions can be an effective way to protect your brain without giving up the benefits of dairy. There are also many plant-based alternatives, like almond or coconut milk, which offer nutrients without the risks associated with saturated fats. To maintain a balanced diet and protect your brain, small substitutions can make all the difference. By reducing your intake of whole dairy, you decrease inflammation and oxidative stress in the brain, promoting better long-term cognitive health. Avoiding yellow cheeses and other high-fat products may seem like a small sacrifice, but the benefits for your brain are enormous. Number 3. Red and processed meats. Red and processed meats are staples in many diets, but they can be a ticking time bomb for brain health. These foods are rich in heme iron, which in large amounts can speed up the production of free radicals in the body. These free radicals cause oxidative stress, one of the main mechanisms of cell damage in the brain. Over time, this stress can significantly contribute to Alzheimer's development. Did you know that processed meats like bacon, sausages, and ham are even more dangerous? In addition to being high in saturated fats, they contain high levels of sodium and chemical preservatives that increase inflammation in the body. These chemicals can negatively impact brain function, disrupting communication between neurons and affecting memory and cognition. Frequent consumption of processed meats is strongly linked to a higher risk of dementia. Red meat, while rich in proteins and nutrients, can also be harmful when consumed in excess. Studies show that diets high in red meat are associated with higher levels of inflammation and oxidative stress in the brain. This means that, in the long run, frequent consumption can impair cognitive function and increase the risk of developing neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. The key to protecting your brain isn't to eliminate red meat completely, but to limit your intake and opt for healthier protein sources like fish, chicken, or legumes. These foods are rich in nutrients that promote brain health without the risks associated with excessive red meat consumption. For example, swapping bacon for omega-3 rich fish can positively impact your memory and cognition. Controlling your intake of processed meats is also crucial. These foods, besides being high in sodium and preservatives, promote inflammation and can compromise brain function in the long term. By reducing your consumption of processed meats and opting for healthier proteins, you'll be protecting your brain health and reducing your risk of Alzheimer's. Number 2. Foods high in salt. Excess salt intake is something many of us overlook, but its effects on brain health can be devastating. Processed foods, canned goods, fast foods, and even seemingly harmless snacks like potato chips are loaded with sodium. While sodium is essential for fluid balance in the body, too much of it can lead to high blood pressure, impairing blood flow to the brain and contributing to the risk of Alzheimer's. Increased blood pressure from excess sodium is one of the biggest risk factors for dementia. With less blood and oxygen flowing properly to the brain, neural cells start to suffer damage. Over time, this poor circulation can affect memory, reasoning, and even cause mental confusion. That's why a diet high in sodium is considered one of the leading indirect causes of neurodegenerative diseases. Another concerning factor is that many high-sodium foods contain preservatives and additives that further increase inflammation in the body. This chronic inflammation directly affects brain health, making it easier for amyloid plaques and other Alzheimer's markers to develop. So, cutting back on processed foods is an important step for anyone who wants to preserve their memory and keep their mind sharp as they age. The good news is that reducing salt intake isn't as hard as it seems. Swapping processed foods for fresh, natural options like fruits and vegetables is one of the easiest ways to cut down on excess sodium in your diet. Plus, natural seasonings like herbs and spices can add flavor to foods without increasing sodium intake. Avoiding high-sodium foods doesn't mean cutting out all salt from your diet, but rather being mindful of what you're consuming. Reading food labels is essential to understand how much sodium you're taking in. Have you checked how much sodium you consume each day? Number 1. Excess alcohol. Excessive alcohol consumption is known to damage the liver and cardiovascular system, but few people know that it also directly affects the brain. Frequent and heavy drinking speeds up the neurodegeneration process, disrupting communication between brain cells. This cumulative damage can significantly increase the risk of developing Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. Drinking alcohol occasionally isn't the problem, but chronic and excessive consumption drastically affects brain health. Alcohol interferes with the production of neurotransmitters, which are essential for proper brain function. It also decreases the brain's ability to repair its own tissues. This progressive wear and tear can lead to memory loss, confusion, and cognitive difficulties that worsen over time. Studies show that excessive alcohol consumption is also linked to the shrinkage of specific brain regions like the hippocampus, which is crucial for forming new memories. When these areas are damaged, the brain becomes less efficient, increasing the chances of developing diseases like Alzheimer's. Each episode of heavy drinking contributes to the buildup of damage in the central nervous system. Controlling alcohol intake is one of the most effective ways to preserve brain health. If you're concerned about alcohol's impact on your memory and cognition, a good practice is to limit your intake to moderate levels or even seek healthier alternatives in social situations. This doesn't mean you have to cut alcohol out of your life completely, but rather be aware of the damage it can cause when consumed in excess. Additionally, it's important to know that alcohol can worsen the effects of other risk factors like high blood pressure and inflammation in the body. When combined with a diet high in sodium or saturated fats, alcohol can amplify the damage to the brain, speeding up the neurodegeneration process. And if you want to receive more videos showing how being healthy isn't that hard, subscribe to the channel. I'm always bringing you videos that aim to give you the best tips for your well-being. In the video now showing on your screen, I talk about 7 foods people with arthritis must avoid. See you there.